Only one person can drive the car out of chaos. Only one person can assume true control of the locker room. And the leadership that was sorely needed by the men and the women in this beautiful performance art has been bestowed upon us by that man sitting right there, Paul Levesque. But the way that this man has assumed the pencil of this company and has led us to a creative freedom backstage where more superstars are emerging into the main events in front of your very eyes.
You have to go through the darkness to truly know the light. This may sound cliche, but it's true nonetheless. Often the greatest doubts occur right before a breakthrough. This quote from Sir Das couldn't be truer when looking at the WWE over recent years. Everyone that's a part of WWE right now, from the talent, both young talent, old talent, ones that have been there ages, staff members, executives involved in the company, the fans, the WWE universe, critics, and the great Paul Heyman, as you heard in the intro, are all making it abundantly clear that right now WWE has made it through the darkness and they're into the light through the quality of product and what we're saying week to week and behind the scenes. This video today will be much the same as my 2019, the worst year in WWE history video, which has recently exploded thanks to you guys, the viewers. In this video, you will get a retrospective, a reminder as to just how poor, just how dire the weekly WWE product was throughout most of 2020, where you get to jump in a time machine and listen to a 17-year-old version of me rant and rave over how bad the product, was, but is. These are going to be clips and rants from 2020 as it was happening. And you'll get a 21-year-old JTE, me, breakdown for you exactly what's happened from 2020 now that the dust has settled. It's going to be a fun one. Grab your popcorn. Let's get right into it.
Like, WWE, in a quote literally yesterday, says, as a brand that has been woven into the fabric of society, WWE and its superstars bring families together and deliver a sense of hope, determination, and perseverance. Well, if that is delivering a sense of perseverance and hope, then all hope is lost after watching this Raw tonight. This show was a bucket of piss. This show was garbage, okay? Genuinely, watching this show, it's just excruciating to watch.
2020 kicked off a new decade in style. For those of you who may have forgotten just what happened at the very end of 2019, the final WWE segment we got of the 2010s decade was a 40-minute long wedding segment featuring Bobby Lashley and Rusev's real-life wife, Lana. Who can forget that early makeout in the segment that led to some brown stain being smeared on Lana's face for the remainder of the 20 minutes of that segment, or when Liv Morgan made her appearance known at the end. That's to set the table for you for the standard of product we had at this time. So 2020, let's cut right to it. It got underway on the Raw side in the best way possible. We had the return of the Big Show. How exciting. 2020 would be a big year for the 48-year-old Big Show, as he would go on to main event night 2 of WrestleMania 36. More on that later. Over on SmackDown, let's just go there for a moment, we were deeply entrenched in the babyface big dog Roman Reigns versus heel King Corbin storyline. By January 2020, these two had already been feuding for around 3 months. A feud which, up to this point, had given us legendary cinema, such as Corbin, Ziggler, and Rude pouring cans of dog food onto Roman Reigns, smearing dog food into Roman Reigns' face, simply gripping. Or when a grown man dresses in a dog costume to impersonate Roman Reigns, I think. Who can forget that? Just simply legendary storytelling. So that's what was happening over on SmackDown. That's what was happening over on Raw. One thing I must say, thanks to Paul Heyman's role in creative and Shane McMahon's role at the 2020 Royal Rumble. Note, this is the same Shane McMahon who 2 years later would be fired by his own father. Just remember that. Thanks to those two, Heyman and McMahon, the Royal Rumble 2020 delivered a legitimately good show. The best show of the year so far, and it would stay that way through 2020. No show got close to the 2020 Royal Rumble. Anyway, the boredom of Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin punching each other around a baseball stadium to open the show was quickly forgotten about when Edge made his long-anticipated return, having an amazing moment. It may have been spoiled in the dirt sheets for months, but the moment we got, Edge, Adam Copeland, 9 years in the making his return from neck trauma, neck injury, truly a genuinely great moment. So that happened, a positive out of the gate. As well, Drew McIntyre had his moment, winning the Royal Rumble, and the vibe coming out of the show was overwhelmingly positive. WrestleMania 36 was locked in for Raymond James Stadium, set to be a huge show. From there, WWE dug deep into their bag in the build of WrestleMania 36. Roman Reigns and his cousins poured dog food all over King Corbin that following SmackDown, smearing the dog food into Baron Corbin's face. Vince McMahon had Shayna Baszler become a vampire, I guess, 2 weeks later on the February 10th episode of Monday Night Raw. Who can forget that, as Shayna Baszler bit Becky Lynch for no reason. One of the longest reigning NXT Women's Champions to that point. This credible NXT superstar comes in and she's biting other wrestlers. Interesting. Thank God for Edge's feud with Randy Orton, because my word, Super Showdown 2020, that's a show I'm still recovering from 4 years later. Let's just get into that. WWE started off light with The Undertaker winning the two-way mountain trophy in a gauntlet match. A trophy that has not been seen since, and a concept that has not been revisited at any point since then. Nonetheless, it might have gotten lost in baggage somewhere at a Saudi Arabian airport. Who knows? But Undertaker won the two-way mountain trophy, so good for him. Let's then talk WWE Championship. The same WWE Championship that Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes fought for in one of the greatest WrestleMania main events ever a few weeks ago. That title. The WWE Championship was defended here at Super Showdown 2020 by Brock Lesnar in a 90-second squash match against Ricochet. Yeah. That's sort of where we're at in 2020. Look, a 90-second bell-to-bell classic, I must say, but yeah. Not great. Speaking of bell-to-bell classics, who can forget Roman Reigns' steel cage match with King Corbin. I lived this entire feud. A number of you did as well. Not a single member of the global WWE audience wanted to see this Super Showdown steel cage match. By this point, everyone had seen enough of dog food, enough of the dog mascot costumes, enough of King Corbin's cronies hitting Roman from behind with the royal scepter. We'd seen multiple matches already. We were ready for this to end. Here we had another match, a steel cage match deep in the heart of Saudi Arabia at Super Showdown. Then, if that wasn't enough for this show, we got to the main event. Goldberg taking on The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, for the Universal Championship. This was the KO punch in the 1-2 blow that was the death of The Fiend. The first punch was the Hell in a Cell 2019 disaster, or as it was described at the time, a masterpiece, where The Fiend took on Seth Rollins. The match against Goldberg, was the knockout blow. This was the death blow for The Fiend as a main event legitimate credible star, as Goldberg, a 53-year-old who wrestles twice a year at most, came into Saudi Arabia, couple of spears, jackhammer, done. The Fiend was dead. Fiend was pinned in the middle of the ring by Bill Goldberg. The outcry of anger this caused, it had to be seen to be believed. It was insane.
Fast-breaking developments in the coronavirus emergency in the U.S. and around the world.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Stay at home.
Stay home, stay safe.
Quite simply, stay at home.
The number of cases soaring just today. More than 24,000 now nationwide. New Jersey.
The WWE was left scrambling big time. With WrestleMania merely a few weeks away, there was serious unrest, serious disgruntlement in the locker room and amongst the fan base at the time. I know, I was beating the drum that WWE should not continue due to the health and safety of the wrestlers, due to the fact that there's going to be no fans, so what's the point? Roman Reigns, the face of the company, the full-time leader of the locker room, elected to miss WrestleMania entirely and take a break. Totally justified, might I add. He's still on medication to this day to suppress his leukemia coming back, so a justified decision, but it was a fatal blow in the context of the locker room. And let's just frame it like this. WWE was faced with the frightening reality of a global pandemic, and not just that, the reality of trying to continue to run their overexposed 3-hour weekly Raw show, their 2-hour weekly SmackDown show, and all put it under the veil of a essential business. Okay, here's a segment of me at the time expressing my unhappiness about WWE continuing to put on poor quality weekly TV shows amidst the chaos, uncertainty, and pandemic of a global pandemic, all under the veil of an essential business. Also, forgive the poor audio, I didn't have a microphone back then, so roll the clip, Johnny.
Show isn't worth running. The fact that WWE are endangering their employees by still running this show, it's baffling. How this constitutes as essential service, I'll never know. Okay, just nothing about tonight was essential. I don't see how having MVP announce next week's Money in the Bank men's qualifying matches is essential. Okay, how are 3 women's Money in the Bank matches essential? How's Drew McIntyre versus Andrade essential? How's the Viking Raiders versus Ricochet and Cedric Alexander essential? None of this is essential. Why is this show still happening? So
then came COVID Mania, WrestleMania 36, the WWE Performance Center, no fans, no Roman Reigns, truly the strangest WrestleMania of all time. Unfortunately, one of the most forgettable WrestleManias of all time also. First off, respect to all the employees who risked their health to perform at this show for us, the fans, but particularly I just want to shout out that Boneyard match with The Undertaker and AJ Styles, great, and the Firefly Funhouse match, some hated it, I liked it. Both the Boneyard and the Funhouse match, creative, made the best of a crap situation. But across the board, as a WrestleMania, this was probably one of the most forgettable ones, as I said, ever. Did it click? Not really. This is WrestleMania. And it wasn't it. Drew McIntyre had his big moment in front of no one to close night 2 as he beat Brock Lesnar. Then we'd find out the night after, Drew's work was not done in the main event of WrestleMania. No. Drew McIntyre then defended the WWE Championship 5 minutes after winning it from Brock Lesnar. Drew defended it in a match against the Big Show. Big Show earned a title shot here in the main event of WrestleMania by walking down the Performance Center ramp and saying, I want a title shot. By that logic, my nan could earn a WrestleMania main event WWE title shot. If all you gotta do is walk 40 feet and get into a ring, I guess my nan can challenge for the title next in the main event. I don't know. Big Show almost won the championship in the main event of WrestleMania. Thank God Drew retained, but just another weird thing for this year. Big Show main evented WrestleMania in the Performance Center in front of no fans. Like that is the Dark Days. Compare that to what we got 3 weeks ago in the main event of WrestleMania 40. The Avengers Endgame teaming up to conquer Thanos, Roman Reigns, Cena, Final Boss Rock, The Undertaker. All of this stuff we just got. The big moment there with Triple H. That was WrestleMania 40. That's what we got nowadays. That's what we're getting. Here we had Drew McIntyre in front of no one, fending off the Big Show, who was 48 years old in this match for no reason. Anyway, the WWE product from April to August 2020 was some of the most bizarre, unnecessary, out of place, strange content we've seen produced. I get that we should all have been appreciative they're putting on a show. I get it. No need to comment that down in the comments, but let's just listen to it from someone who is living in 2020. I'm going to have this part of the video just be me rolling clips from a person in 2020 living it. So, roll the clips.
You had this segment where Sheamus and Jeff Hardy, they both came out. Sheamus had a bunch of security guards and whatnot. The doctor was there. The doctor takes the piss, or the piss jug or whatever. And then they're cutting back and forth promos. Sheamus is mocking Jeff Hardy a bit. And then Jeff Hardy throws the piss in his face. Sheamus, look at him. Look at this. And the crowd was chanting, you got pissed on, but they had to bleep out the word piss Because for some reason, you can't say the word piss, but you can have a man throw a jug of it in someone's face. This company is so just out of touch. That's the main thing I took out of this. This company is just out of touch, dude. They seriously are. Out of touch is the best way to describe this company. Quite frankly, at this point, I can't even be bothered. Like, dude. Night Raw has had many bad years over the journey. Okay, the show, it's been on the air for 27 plus years, and really these last few years, 2018, 2019, now 2020 obviously, some of the absolute worst wrestling television you'll ever see. The show we got tonight, it was just more of this unwatchable, hard to sit through, it feels like an experiment on the human race, because this company can't seriously be trying to entertain people with the content they're putting out. Granted, I'm not saying that you can't enjoy segments on this show. That's wrestling subjective. Some people might really enjoy the Iconics versus Bliss Cross Applesauce of the women's tag titles. Some people might love Natalya versus Shayna Baszler. Some people might love that Lashley's taking on Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. People might love that. But as a 3-hour show, Monday Night Raw, for these past few years, and right now especially, is in one of the most unwatchable states I've ever seen it. To the point where I don't even think SmackDown is capable of producing a good show anymore. Seriously speaking, some of you who are watching this probably thought this was a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Personally, I'll never know why. But in my opinion, what I watched for 2 hours on Fox tonight, it's just more of this same nothing TV, more rinse and repeat. Nothing notable happens on this show.
For those of you playing along at home, I'm just going to rattle off the top of my head some of those segments, some of those moments, which were just these WTF strange things that we got in 2020, things that we just do not get anything like now, thankfully. Who can forget Bobby Lashley in the Performance Center flipping tractor tires in 3 different segments on a Monday Night Raw for no reason? Who can forget the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits storyline, where they were taking turns doing different challenges, including axe throwing, most infamously carpool karaoke, where the Viking Raiders were doing carpool karaoke looking like goofballs. Here's a clip. Who can forget when the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders were playing basketball and the Street Profits won 100-0? Okay. That was great. Who can forget the Universal Championship storyline? So keep in mind, the same belt that Roman Reigns held for, 1,316 days, that title was being feuded over by Braun Strowman and a storyline against The Miz and John Morrison, where we got great content, such as The Miz and John Morrison sitting in a white van production truck, pouring slime over Braun Strowman, or trying to at least. They missed Braun Strowman and got the interviewer. Here's a clip of me reacting to that.
Wanted Nickelodeon, Slime Time Live, Double Dare, DX 2009 reincarnated. This episode of SmackDown would be right up your alley, because as you can see on screen, we got just goofiness all around with The Miz and John Morrison sitting in some Kevin Dunn white van production truck or whatever, messing around with Braun Strowman all throughout this show.
Now, forgive the jump around, because I understand we're going a bit all over the place from April to August 2020, but that time period felt like a blur. Anyone living it can attest to that. There wasn't really a chronological timeline in April to August 2020. It just all happened. It was all a big blur. Who remembers when Rey Mysterio, one of the greatest of all time, the greatest luchador ever, was in a match against Seth Rollins at Extreme Rules, the horror show, and Seth Rollins pushed Rey Mysterio's face, his eye specifically, into the corner of the steel steps, and Rey Mysterio's eye popped out. Who remembers that? Because I do. Who remembers Braun Strowman and that swamp fight with Bray Wyatt, where Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt were punching each other in a swamp? Okay. Gripping. Just some of this stuff is just like, I suppressed it from my memory, but it's all coming back to me now. Who remembers when Ric Flair, a 70-year-old man in the height of a global pandemic, was pushed out week in, week out to be involved in the Randy Orton storyline with Edge? Who remembers that? That happened. Who remembers when WWE were pushing Randy Orton and Edge as the greatest wrestling match ever to try and be the greatest showman? WWE did that. Why? I don't know. Neither does nearly anyone. Who remembers Charlotte Flair's promo where she was saying we need more Charlotte Flair, even though she was already on Raw, NXT, and SmackDown at that stage? Like, who remembers Money in the Bank inside WWE headquarters where Otis won Money in the Bank? Now, must be said, Otis, Mandy Rose, that whole storyline, most of it pretty well done. It objectively was throughout 2020. That storyline with Otis and Mandy, best thing on SmackDown for about 6 months there. But Otis is Mr. Money in the Bank? Really? As The Miz would say? Really? Are you kidding me? So, you're getting the gist here. All of this stuff on Raw, on SmackDown, it wasn't hitting the same. Even NXT, this isn't really an NXT thing. There's more so Raw, SmackDown, the WWE main roster. But even NXT running shows in front of no one, that really hurt their quality of product. It didn't have the same feel. This wasn't 2018, 2019 NXT, which had a magic to it. This was NXT in front of nobody. Even that took a hit. Like, the quality of product at the time, it was tough. It was tough to watch. Raws felt brutal. SmackDowns weren't much better. And then we got Roman Reigns, the big dog. He made his return. Roman Reigns saved WWE. And without Roman Reigns, make no bones about it, WWE here would have carried on being the Dark Days for probably the next few years. But Roman Reigns, thank God, came back. He made his return. SummerSlam 2020, in the middle of the Fiend Braun Strowman Universal Championship match, Roman Reigns made his return with a mean streak. He was wearing a Shove and Win shirt. It was different. There was a different feel. There was a different aura. There was a certain extra oomph with this Roman Reigns. He beat up the Fiend. He beat up Braun Strowman. Then, that week on SmackDown, the show closed with Roman Reigns sitting on a couch with Paul Heyman. And the rest is history. That gave birth to the mean streak Roman Reigns, what will become the Tribal Chief, what will become the anchor of WWE for the next few years, anchoring WWE out of the dark days, out of this COVID pandemic era rabble, this mess that you've just seen clips of, you just heard me rant about. Roman Reigns saved the WWE. And yeah, here we got Roman Reigns feuding with Jey Uso. That would be the next part of this as the remains of 2020. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso having a great storyline, a gripping Samoan blood feud. It was fantastic. It was everything you could possibly ask for. After the month before, we'd seen Jeff Hardy and Sheamus in the piss test segment. After the month before that, we'd seen whole shows dedicated to The Undertaker. When The Undertaker wasn't even there, we just saw like Undertaker tributes for no reason. We'd just seen all this rabble, Jeff Hardy in the arrest segment. Now we were getting Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. We were getting Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, who 2 months before was hosting karaoke segments with the female wrestlers on the roster. It was glorious. It was fantastic. Like, there's so much to be said. Documentaries will be made about this 2020 Roman Reigns, Jey Uso run. They have been. The greatness of it. It really did lead WWE out of a dark time. And it was just so good.